If you drive a large premium badged SUV that cost in excess of £70,000, I'll bet you that one of your main reasons for choosing it was its badge appeal. Now, I'm not suggesting it was your main reason or even one of your top three perhaps, but I'll bet it was quite high up there because let's face it, no one buys a big pimped out Land Rover Defender 110 for its legendary off-road ability. Certainly not here in leafy Surrey, where the most difficult thing you're going to have to traverse is a National Trust car park or the curb outside your kid's school. No, you've bought it because you like the feeling of safety that it gives you. You like the fact that you sit up high, you've got lots of space around you, and as I say, there is that appeal of that prestigious badge. But what if I was to tell you that you could get all of that for that level of money in a fully electric SUV, but the badge on the front might not be quite what you expect? Because now your choice can include this, which is a large, practical, all-electric SUV that costs in excess of £70,000. But the badge on the front doesn't say Land Rover, or Audi, or BMW, or Mercedes-Benz, certainly not Porsche. It says Kia. Welcome to this week's road test review, welcome to the new Kia EV9, and as always, welcome to AutoEV. Now, before we get started on this week's road test review of Kia's new EV9, it is of course that time when I'm going to ask you to make sure that you are subscribed to the AutoEV channel. Then once you've done that, make sure you've pressed the little bell button down below, because in that way you'll get a notification when our next video is uploaded and has gone live. Once you've watched it and you do enjoy it, then make sure you do give it a thumbs up, and don't forget, leave us your comments and thoughts down below. Let me know what you think about cars with reviews such as Kia's new EV9 and of course on the AutoEV channel as a whole. Now, I'm probably doing Kia a little bit of a disservice in fairness, and I'm being a bit dramatic when I say all that stuff at the beginning, because I say they've been on a sort of upward trajectory for a little while now. It started way back with the Kia e-Niro, and then of course its success of the Niro EV, which is around about the £40,000 bracket, and then of course we've got the EV6 at round about the £50,000 bracket, and certainly with the GT model of that, people started to get into their head about paying over £60,000 with a Kia badge on it. But £70,000, well, you're in the marketplace now where you're going to be looking at BMW, and if you are going down the route of all electric, there is the brilliant iX. Okay, yes, it has the looks only a mother could love, but it is a good car to drive. And then of course you've got Audi's new Q8 e-tron, and of course Mercedes-Benz with the EQE SUV, and of course its smaller sibling, the EQC. So is it too much of a stretch of the imagination to think about spending £70,000 for a Kia? Or actually, would this be the sensible choice? But before we start, let's have a look at the main points of the new Kia EV9. Well, the EV9 is the second electric Kia to be built on the company's eGMP platform after the brilliant EV6. It's the company's largest SUV offering, sitting above the combustion engine Sorento as the new flagship. It's available in either 6 or 7-seat layouts depending on your needs. It has a 99.8 kilowatt-hour battery, allowing for WLTP range of up to 349 miles. And prices start from just over £65,000 and top out at just under £79,000, depending on model and trim. So a large, all-electric SUV costing well over £70,000 on top of the range, guys, isn't too much of a stretch of the imagination. But like I say, would you be put off by that Kia badge on the front? Or, as I said, is this the sensible choice? Would you choose this, or should you choose this, over a BMW iX, Audi Q8 e-tron, or a Mercedes-Benz EQC or EQE SUV? Well, of course, the only way to answer that question is by putting it through the road test that actual car buyers trust when it comes to choosing their next electric vehicle, and that is the AutoEV one. Now, as always, we're going to start with styling, but a little bit of a confession. There's a reason why we haven't got our hands on this until now, and other channels have. I was invited to the launch at the end of last year up in Scotland, and I was really looking forward to it, but unfortunately a family situation arose which meant I had to cancel it at the last minute. However, the benefit of that has meant that I've been able to spend a week with this car rather than just a few hours on a launch, on a press launch. So hopefully you'll really enjoy our full road test review, and it will give you all the details that you need if you're considering this car. But look, as I say, we're going to start with styling. Now, we've seen the car. We did a sneak peek of it. We were invited out to Germany to see the car in the studio. And, you know, we did cover quite a lot of that out there. But let's talk about it again, because the looks of this car, I think, is first of all the main thing that's going to make you kind of stand back and take notice of it. It is unashamedly a big, large, boxy SUV, and I think that is brilliant. I love what Kia have done. I think this is a brilliant looking car. It reminds me of the proper old school off-roaders, if you like, from the 70s and 80s. You know, the Isuzu Troopers, Mitsubishi Shoguns, you know, Toyota Land Cruiser Amazons. Sorry, it's very windy here today. And not unlike sort of like the Discovery 3 and maybe Discovery 4 as well. It's that kind of blocky, kind of edgy look that just says, look, I am a big SUV and I'm not ashamed to say it, because what I'm going to offer you is a pile of space. I think it's brilliant. Right, okay, so get on with styling, Brian. Digital Tiger nose, usual thing with Kia at the front. This is this kind of new kind of upright headlight with this kind of, you know, kind of lightning kind of shaped sort of like DRLs, and then the headlights running vertically down there. Now, in some markets you're going to get embedded sort of like lights in this panel here, not for the UK. That doesn't come to the UK market, or I'm not even sure if it comes to Europe, in fairness. But even so, I think the light graphic on the front of this is brilliant. As I say, it's big, it's bluff, and you can see that, but it's got some good strong lines. As I say, you've got this nice kind of Digital Tiger nose. You've got your active cooling flaps down at the bottom. You can see they're opening and closing to cool and the battery. You've also got more airflow vents there to take airflow around the side of the car as well. Believe it or not, it's actually quite aerodynamically efficient for something of this size and nature. And as I say, that's what Kia have chosen to do, because that's going to help with its mileage and its efficiency. But we'll talk about that in the usability section. Oh, there's a dog barking over there. You've got your embedded camera at the front there, and then of course your sensors down at the bottom, which is going to help as the company moves towards more autonomy. Now again, in some markets that autonomy is going to come through faster than perhaps we'll see in the UK. So it has been sort of like designed and engineered to accept that from day one. Of course, you get your big Kia logo at the front here on this big kind of almost kind of clamshell bonnet. It's not quite, it just kind of wraps around the side there, but a big bonnet here. But yeah, if this comes up behind you at night, you'll know exactly what it is, I'll tell you. And as I say, I think the stature of this, I love the fact it's got the big Kia logo just big and bold there. As I say, it's absolutely unashamedly stating its intent, and I love that. Now, as we move around the side, you can see what I mean about the sort of like the clamshell, the kind of semi-clamshell bonnet, and as I say, the lights that kind of go into the side here. But look at it, just such a bold design. I love it. You know, good sharp creases in there. It's proper Kia design language, and as I say, they're really setting their stall out, I think. And the interesting thing is, whilst you can sort of like see resemblances with the rest of the family in terms of maybe the Nero, you know, with the kind of vertical lights, it's not like it's just a big Nero. They haven't fallen down the route of what Audi are doing, and that's what I like about Hyundai and Kia at the moment. They're really sort of like saying they're all part of the same team, but each car has its own individuality. So you don't have that kind of swoopy elegance maybe of the EV6, but as I say, you've got the kind of big stance, the blockiness that you get with this car, and I like that. Okay, there's 3 trim levels, which, as I say, we will talk about pricing. The base Air model gets 19-inch wheels. These are the 21-inch wheels that you get on the GT line and GT line S. Yeah, there's pros and cons for that, but discuss later. Big standout door mirrors, real kind of squared off and edgy here. You've got this kind of visor graphic with the darkened out sort of like A-pillar, so it looks like the glass is just wrapping round it. Pop-out door handles, flush door handles that pop out, as in obviously when you open it and you need to get into the car. And then of course you've got this sort of like section down at the bottom there that kind of pinches the bottom and takes away the bulk. There's a really interesting thing, and they're not alone in doing it, in fairness, that Kia have done is, but when you open the door goes right over the sill. So when you're getting in and out of the car, especially when you've got sort of like, you know, a muddy day like today, you're not catching your trouser leg or your skirt or whatever getting into the car and getting them covered in mud. So when you actually open the car, you've got an exposed sill, because they say the door goes right underneath the sill. Clever. As I say, they're not alone in doing that, but I do like that fact. And then look here, you've got this kind of upswept window line into the spoiler. That's a bit more like where you see that kind of EV6 sort of thing here. Now the car was first shown as a concept a couple of years back, and they've pretty much stayed true to that concept by just productionising it. The GT line and GT line S get the slightly different roof rails. The Air model gets a more integrated type of roof rail on it, which, as I say, I'll put some B-roll up so you can see that. But yeah, this is a great looking car. I think it's a great looking car, this. Absolutely love it. Now it's a big old bus. It's over 5 metres long with 3 metre long wheelbase. So it's a big old car. Big roof spoiler comes right out over the back of the rear window, so to aid with airflow and aerodynamics. You've got the wiper arm that's tucked right up in there. You can't even see it. That's a brilliant solution. Again, the fact that it's tucked right in there, you can't see it, but as I say, it's there and obviously it's clear. And it does, as you can see, get absolutely filthy because of the sort of like the kind of blocky nature of the design. Like the front, you get these kind of nice, very distinctive kind of tail lights with the car. You get the rear-facing camera, sorry, the rear vision camera up there. There's lots of cameras around the car and sensors, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And again, like the front, your big, new, bold Kia logo. Although my mother-in-law asked me the other day what was the KN, and I went, that's a Porsche. And she said, no, why does it say KN in the back? So, yeah, no, it's Kia. Anyway, there we go. Tailgate goes right down to bumper level again. So again, nice, practical, easy to load. There's another camera underneath there, and then of course you've got the parking sensors there, your EV9 badge there, and then just obviously, you know, your model designation there, again with a nice bit of diffuser for the airflow. Look, as I say, it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. I absolutely love it. I think what Kia have done with this car is magnificent. I really do. As I say, it just reminds me of a proper old school sort of like 4x4. You know, as I say, from the likes of the Land Cruiser Amazon or Isuzu Trooper, Discovery 3, all that kind of stuff. It's not, you know, sort of like that kind of, a bit apologetic like the Mercedes-Benz EQE. Okay, maybe it's not maybe handsome as maybe the QA e-tron from Audi. Certainly isn't as controversial as the BMW iX. But what do you think? And in terms of looks alone, would this tempt you? Would you buy this over the BMW iX or an Audi QA e-tron? Or even something like a Volvo XC90 plug-in hybrid. Would you go all electric because of the way this car looks? As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Now, as you can imagine, with a car of this size, carrying capacity is going to be, well, probably ample. And if you're looking at a Kia EV9 and potentially looking at a 6 or a 7 seat car, then obviously you have a family. You might also have a family pet. You might also have some large dogs that you need to get in the back of it. So will your large 4-legged friends fit? Well, let's find out, shall we? Yes they can. Hello Finley. Now that is 333 litres of boot space with the rearmost seats in place. To give you an idea, that's almost as big as the boot on the Peugeot E308 that we tested in our triple test the other week. Now, what you can also do if you're not using the rear seats is you can fold them down. Mind yourself, pup. Electrically. And that will take luggage capacity up to 828 litres. If you then fold the middle bench down, that takes it up to a gargantuan 2,393 litres of boot space. That's a van. To give you an idea, a BMW iX behind the rear seats is a 500 litre boot. This is way bigger, way more practical. Now, I need to move you a second, little pup. Don't run off. You sit down there. There is some underfloor storage here because you can have a parcel shelf in place when you've got the sort of like the the second row up. You can then put a parcel shelf in there, and that fits in there. Plus, obviously, you've got your tyre inflation system in there as well. If you're wondering where your cables go, well, they go up at the front because in addition, you've also got over 80 litres of boot space. Front boot space as well. That's vast. Of course, suitcases, well, what won't fit in here? Let's be honest. There's two carry-ons, end on end. There's our medium, and there's our large. And then if we want to put Finley back in the boot, which I wouldn't do, because he sits up there, maybe put my daughter in the boot, I'm not sure. I'm joking, I wouldn't. But yeah, look. It's huge. So just to give you an idea of the 333 litres that I've just spoken about, that is the rear seat, the rear bench in place, with our large and our medium suitcase in place in the boot. Plus there's still room there, as you can see, for soft bags or rucksacks. Now I'm going on a lot about the practicality of this car, but that is one of the main reasons why you would buy an EV9 over anything else. It's just brilliant. Now Kia have really put a lot of thought into this car, and of course, as is normal with a lot of Kias, you do get vehicle to load. So you actually get a 3-pin socket on the back here as well. So for charging laptops, or maybe, I don't know, a cool box or something, you know, if you've got a 3-pin plug with a cool box that you're taking for a picnic or on a family holiday or whatever. So you've got that as well. Plus you've got USB connectivity in the back for your rearmost passengers. And over this side, you've got the same, plus a 12-volt socket as well. Now this middle row, as I say, you can have it as a 6 or a 7-seat car, but it's only on a certain model you can get the 6-seat version, which has 2 captain's chairs in this middle row. Apologies, I've moved this seat forward so you can see me how easy it is to get in and out of the back of the car. I'll come on to that a little bit later. I personally think the 7-seat option is the best option, personally. The only upside with the 6-seat is the fact that the captain's chairs can swivel round. So if you have a person with, dare I suggest, limited mobility, slightly older person, or maybe somebody that's coming from a wheelchair, it's quite easy for them to swivel the seat out and get in and out of the car rather than try and climb into it. So that's probably the only reason I would suggest the 6-seat option might be the better one. In all other scenarios, I think the 7-seat is the one to have. Right, how do you get in the back? Well, there's a button up here or a button down here which you press, and that tips that seat forward, as you can see, and I climb in the back and put it back to where it was. There we go. Now, if I nudge that forward, I've got bags of headroom, absolutely loads. Okay, this seat has slid back a little bit more, but this seat will slide forward. I mean, I'm 5'8". I could, if somebody the same size as me was to sit there and slid the seat forward, I would sit back here and happily do quite a few hours journey in back here. There's nothing making you feel like, dare I suggest, a third-class citizen all the way back here. You've got cup holders. Like I say, you've also got USB connectivity. You've got air vents up on the roof here, and of course, because on this model we've got the large panoramic sunroof, it floods it in with light, and of course you get these massive big rear quarter lights in the car as well. So yeah, it really does work in terms of its practicality as a 7-seater, even if you sat in the furthest most bench. Now the middle row, as I say, working as a 7-seater, is huge. You've got a nice big chunky grab handle there to haul yourself up into, and a completely flat floor. This is part of the eGMP platform. Now, as I say, that seat's my driving position, and look at the amount of space that I've got. The rear seats recline as well, so you can recline the seats if you need a bit more sort of like lounging space, but there is just a completely flat floor. It's just huge back here. You've got fold down armrests, 2 cup holders here, massive big door bins that will take another water bottle, blinds in the back. You've got on this model the heated and ventilated rear outer seats. Brilliant. There's cubby hole in there, there's USB charging ports there, there is a Rigid style map pocket there, and plus, again on this model, you can nudge that front passenger seat forward from the rear if you need a little bit more space, because it's got the buttons down the side, so you can actually move it up and down. Sorry, I've got Finlay sitting in the front there and he's wondering what's going on. The other nice thing that I think Kia have done here, it's got the sort of rigid backs to the front seats like the Kia EV6 has, and from memory the Niro as well now, but instead of the hard plastic they've covered it with a nice kind of textured material, almost like a kind of cloth wool blend material, so it just feels a bit better finished back here. And of course you've also got cup holders at the rear of that centre console as well. Isofix points are nice and easy to get to, and as I say, you've got a lot of light coming into the car with this panoramic sunroof, which has a blind that you can cover it over, and there's vents as well up in the roof, as well as some interior temperature controls for the middle row passengers. So if you're looking for practicality, look no further, because this thing is just knocking everything else out of the park as far as I'm concerned. The only thing that possibly is more practical than this is something like the Mercedes EQV. Other than that, if you need the space, this is the car you should be buying. Okay, interior, up at front, what have we got? Well, a really well laid out cabin. It isn't perfect, and I will talk about that in a second. But basically you've got, again, the kind of Kia double screen here. There's actually 3 screens in this. I think there's sort of like 12-inch each on either side, and then this little centre screen here for the, if I put that map on, does it go into a lighter colour? No, it doesn't. But if you don't know if you can see that there, you've got this, like the heating and ventilation control has its own screen in the middle between the 3. So your driver information screen, HVAC, and then obviously your main infotainment screen here. Right. First things first, let's talk about the infotainment screen. So it's the usual stuff that you get from Kia, and we've seen before in other cars that they've done. However, there's some nice shortcut buttons, so you don't have to go into the screen to control everything. So like the Nissan Ariya, you've got this bit of veneer along here that has these buttons embedded into it, these capacitive buttons, and they light up when obviously the car starts. When the car's off, you don't see them. So if you go to, say, I don't know, setup, let me press that. And then you get sort of like this screen comes up here, and obviously you can go into do things like connect your mobile, do your navigation settings and such, and how you want the layout to be and the display as such, the brightness and all sorts of things like that. You've got a favourite button, then you've got your media button, obviously if you want to get your radio on or whatever. You do get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but disappointingly, it has to be wired. My Renault Megane E-Tech has wireless, and it's half the price of this car. Come on, Kia, let's get with the programme. And then obviously you get search, map, and then the home button. So that's it. So you've got the touch screen, which is then sort of like with these sort of like tiles in it, which again, like as we would normally expect, is really quick to respond. It's really nice. You know, you can go in there to adjust certain things, such as the ventilation system. If you want the third row folded or unfolded electrically, like it does, rather than the button, you can go into the screen to do it as well. Where are we going? We'll go back to home. So yeah, so all your bits and pieces are in there, and obviously your phone settings, and then there's your settings itself. Really nice, easy to use, very slick to respond. I like it. And as I say, you've got the physical buttons there as your shortcut buttons. You've also got obviously a volume control here for your media, as well as one on the steering wheel. So that's good. There is enough physical buttons. So this brings me on to one of my little bugbears with it, one of the little problems with it. And it's this air conditioning screen that's in the centre here. You've got heating and ventilation controls along here, so your temperature adjusts for passenger, fan speed, your mode, and your temperature adjusts for driver. That's great, like that. However, if you want to switch your heated rear screen on, it's on this screen here. Now you say, well, what's the problem with that? It's an arm stretch away. It is. The problem comes is because you've got a driver monitoring system. If you take your eyes off the road, this little sensor here, so to do that, even just that, it knows you've done it and it starts beeping at you. Why embed things in screens that means we have to take our eyes off the road if you're then going to chastise us for it? Now I get that's not Kia's fault, that's legislation, but I don't really see the point. Why couldn't we just have another button down somewhere where you just put your heated screen on? I don't really get the point of using this touch screen. It's the same with this, like, you know, the heated front, not the heated front screen, but the full defrost. See? It's done by a button. As soon as you take your eye off the road, that tells you. But you've got to take your eye off the road. Partly the reason is also because whilst the driver display is now not interrupted by the steering wheel like it is on some of the other Kias, that is. So the wheel obscures that screen. So you've got to do that if you want to use that screen. And then, as I say, that starts beeping at you because you've moved your eyes off the road. Bit daft, but there we go. Right, the driver display is, as I say, slightly better than we've seen again because they've moved everything sort of inwards. So your speed readout on your left, your range distance to go there, and then down at the bottom your battery stated charge, and then all your other kind of ancillaries kind of around it. Really nice and easy to use. You can also configure the center display if you've got navigation on and you want to go into your settings, your tire pressure monitoring's there. The only thing I will say with this, I do like this system, and I'm really splitting hairs now. The only thing that would be nice, the navigation in the center there, if you're using Apple CarPlay or something for your navigation, it's only there. You can't have the route guidance in there as well, so you do again have to take your eye off the road just to sort of like look at that if you're using, say, Waze or Google Maps. Now, what I like about my Megane E-Tech is the fact that you can take the Google Maps from there and put it in that screen there, and then use that for your media. So I think if Kia were able to do something similar to that, that would be great, because I think most people nowadays are using, if you've got Apple CarPlay or Google or Android Auto, you tend to be using Apple Maps or Waze or something for your navigation, and it just means you then don't get your navigation route available to you in there if you're using those third-party systems. But that is a minor point, so that's that. You get head-up display as well, which is excellent. There's a lot of physical buttons in the car, which I do applaud them for. So you've got all the usual stuff on the steering wheel, so your cruise control and your media selection over this side, and then use your voice activation and sorry, not your media, what am I talking about? Your media's on this side, that's for your cruise control and your distance thingy there, and then obviously on this side is your Bluetooth and your media controls. Normal column stocks, you've got automatic lights and wipers as you'd expect, and then you've now got the transmission on this stock, a bit like you get on the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and the Kona. So it's the twist, it's also got the start button on it down there, and you twist the columns, this sort of like secondary column stock to go from drive or back to reverse. And then down by my right knee you've got things such as opening the front boot, your what do you call it, the charging flap is down there, you can open it from outside as well, and then your dynamic stability control. Up on the door you've got your memory seats, you've got heated steering wheel, you've got heated seats and ventilated seats as well, and a massage function depending obviously on the model you go for. Now oddly, again, it's a kind of really first world problem this. Normally when you put a heated seat on, it goes straight to position 3 and then you knock it down the level. This one goes to position 1, heating level 1, and then you've got to press it to get up to 3. Which means if you want to then come down, you've got to press it more times to get it up to 1 or 2. And as I say, I know it's a first world problem, but it just seems a bit of an odd way to change it when they've been doing it the other way for so long. There we are. 2 more buttons on the steering wheel, which is your drive mode and terrain mode. We'll talk about them when we drive it. Storage is just vast. Cup holders, yes, you've got 2 of them, or you can fold them away and then just have an open tray, or you can close it completely so it's all out of harm's way, and then you push that to get the cup holders back. Back here I've got a wireless charging pad for the mobile, and then there's your sort of like, some more buttons here for your parking assist, your parking cameras, hill descent control, and the auto hold function when you're at traffic lights. There's a small shallow cubby there, but in front down here is a massive big tray. It is open at the front, as you can see here. And then there's all your USB ports there. So for the connectivity of the Apple CarPlay, Android Auto is down there. You've also got another USB-C port there and a 12-volt socket in there. The driving position is superb. You sit really up high. The one thing I'll say about the car in terms of the other way they've styled it is because everything is so blocky and sharp, the visibility is out of this world. You can see every piece of the car. You turn out your over-the-shoulder view out the back because they've got such big back windows. There's no way you can't see coming out of a sort of like a really sharp angled junction. You can really see it. Plus, you've also got Kia's brilliant blind spot monitoring. So when you put the indicator on, you also get the little vision, the little view from the camera on the side that goes down the car, which is great if you're sort of like in sort of like a congested city or town. You may sometimes maybe have cyclists or sort of like taxi lanes or whatever coming up the side of you. So I do like that. That's excellent. So yeah, I mean the driving position is superb. These head restraints, with their kind of soft, they're just at the right point to nestle the back of your neck. I did a really long drive in the car yesterday, and the comfort level is absolutely out of this world in terms of the seats. You can also have that with the comfort seats. So if I get the right button, you've got the bit that comes up at the front like it does in the Hyundai Ioniq 5. It knocks the seat back. So you've got support there. Just great. Materials. They're good. They're really very good. There's a big message of sustainability with this car. There's a lot of leather-free materials in the car, recyclable plastics. I can't remember, they did tell us at the press launch when we went back to it in Germany how much of the car is going to be able to be recycled, but it is a lot. The only flip side with that is a little bit like we've seen in the Hyundai Ioniq 6. Very commendable, but some of the touch points maybe don't feel quite as special as maybe something like BMW or Audi. That's all I'm going to say. It's not enough to kind of put you off the car, but just be aware that, you know, there are some slightly harder kind of plastics, like this kind of glossy plastic on the steering wheel there, for instance, doesn't feel quite as nice. Steering wheel feels nice, but then when your hand hits that, it sounds like, oh, that's a bit weird, you know. And just some bits, just some of the buttons there, there's just a bit more kind of shinier plastic than maybe you would get from something like BMW, Mercedes-Benz. But you get nice bit of material in there. I quite like this kind of different kind of veneer here. It's not that piano black, which really annoys me. There's sort of material down the centre of this console here. I did mean to say also, underneath this console, this comes out, underneath it is a massive big tray for putting things in. I've got Finley's leading it just now, but also, you know, you have iPads in there or handbags, and then obviously you've got, you know, a big glove box and decent sized door bins as well. So interior, absolutely brilliant as far as I'm concerned. Everything's within nice easy reach. Everything looks good in terms of the way it's designed. It's practical. There's a huge amount of storage, but there are some little annoyances. Whilst you know, sort of like things like, you know, the driving position and the seat comfort is excellent, you've got little things like the fact that you can't see that screen when you're driving, and as I say, if you move your eyes to see it, the car starts beeping at you. You've also got the fact it doesn't have wireless Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, which I think is, you know, we're kind of coming to expect, especially on cars at this price point. And as I say, just some of the materials, and it's not a lot, and I really do have to stress that, but just sometimes, you know, when you touch a button or a switch or something, you go, oh, that doesn't feel quite as sort of like special as it would in, say, an Audi or a BMW. Other than that, however, in terms of practicality and the way that the interior works for you as a family, it's brilliant. It's superb. Now, Kia batteries. Biggest one in a Kia yet, 99.8 kilowatt hours gross capacity, and that should see a WLTP range of up to 336 miles on the two-wheel drive car, and that will drop to 313 miles on the all-wheel drive car like this one is here. Charging speeds, exceptional, 210 kilowatts, meaning a 10 to 80% charge on this at maximum charging capacity is going to take just 24 minutes. And I have to say, that's exactly what I saw this morning. I had just under 10% battery when I went to charge the car after my trip yesterday in a public charger, and in 24 minutes time I had 80% capacity. So it does take those charging speeds and does do well. 800 volt architecture, which is unique in this class at the moment as well, in terms of these kind of big SUV style of cars. And it also comes with a vehicle to load as well. There's also a standard on board 11 kilowatt charger and a heat pump as well. If you've got a 7 kilowatt wall box and you're going from 0% to 100% full, then you're probably looking at, because of the size of the battery, around about 15 hours. So there are two drivetrain options with the EV9, but it will depend on trim level. So if you go for the lead-in Air model, then that is a single motor rear wheel drive car only, and that has about 200 brake horsepower, and that will do the 0 to 60 sprint in around about 9 seconds, so probably as you'd expect for a car of this kind of size and weight. If you go for the all-wheel drive car, which you can only get in GT line and GT line S like this one, then that jumps up to 380 brake horsepower, and it slices the 0 to 60 sprint down to 5.3 seconds, which seems like a big difference, you know, for only another 180 horsepower, but I suppose it's traction and stuff. And it does feel swift, it really does. You put your foot down and it does pick up its skirts and go, I tell you. Now, there's different drive modes, as you'd expect. There's 2 buttons on the steering wheel down in this lower section here. First of all is your drive mode, and of course, as you'd expect, you've got your usual suspects: Eco, Normal, Sport. Normal's the default mode, if you like. You've then got a further mode, My Drive, which is where you can kind of program, for want of a better word, the settings that you like into it, and then when you press that, it defaults them all into your settings. So that does that. There's a further button here, Terrain Mode, and the Terrain Mode obviously goes through things like snow, mud and sand, and that will distribute the torque differently depending obviously on what you want. So you can vary the difference between the sort of like the torque, if you like. Now, talking of the torque, it also has torque vectoring. I'm going to talk to you about these beeps in a second. It also has torque vectoring. So obviously if you're going into, you know, a bend a little bit quick or something and it feels it's starting to lose traction, and maybe one of the wheels, it'll start to distribute the torque round, you know, to stabilise the car up a bit better. Not unique to Kia, but nice to have it. What else has it got? The other thing that's quite interesting with it has a crosswind stability system. Now, it's a big old chunky monkey, this, you know, it's a big slab-sided bit of car, and it is, for the main part, very aerodynamically efficient, believe it or not. But it's going to be susceptible to crosswinds, you know, because it is quite slab-sided. So there is a system there that obviously that will alleviate the sort of like the effects of a crosswind on the car and bring it into a more kind of stable bit by moving sort of like, you know, sort of like power around. So that's also available. You can tow, and the all-wheel drive car will tow a brake trailer up to 2,500 kilos, which is good, and that's also going to be handy when it comes to the you know, the crosswind thing. So all very, very good there. Right. Brakes. Let me talk about the brakes for a little bit. Good. They're very, very good. I do like the brakes, considering the size and weight of the car. It has a nice progressive feel to the pedal, and of course, being a Kia, you can adjust the level of brake regeneration that's available via the 2 paddles behind the steering wheel. So you can have it completely off so that it just coasts down the road, or you can have 1, 2, 3 modes depending on the severity. 4th mode is like a 1 pedal driving mode, and then you can also have an auto mode as well, where it obviously will pick up, you know, if there's a car slowing down immediately in front of you, or if it was used in the nav and you know you're coming to a roundabout or a junction. Usual kind of suspects with that, so it has that too. So the brakes are good, do like the brakes. The steering is also very, very nice. Irrespective of the mode you're in, there is a nice weight behind the steering. You can feel what the car is doing underneath you. And it's really very, very easy to sort of place. However, don't think for a second this is a dynamic car, in the sense that if you think it's going to drive like a BMW iX or even an X5 or something like that, it isn't. It cannot disguise the physical size of it, but nor should it in some respects, because what I'm trying to sort of like convey here, maybe slightly inelegantly, is it's not a car Kia have designed for that. If you want a dynamic drive, buy an EV6. That's what I would say. If you want, however, a big, spacious, 7-seat, practical SUV, this is what you get. You can't have both. It's not going to go around the Nürburgring in under 8 minutes. That's not what this car is about. Nor is it going to be the car you pick the keys up for a big Sunday, you know, a quick Sunday morning blast down your favourite B road. It's just not. But if you want to load it with your family and all your paraphernalia to go on a skiing holiday, or down to Cornwall for the weekend, or tow your boat or your trailer to the tip or whatever, then that's what it's designed for, and it does it really, really well. There are a couple of flaws, however, with the car. Apart from the fact it can't disguise its bulk, the first thing I'm going to talk about is those beeps and bongs. Now, we know that there's a pile of safety stuff coming onto cars, which is legislation, and Kia can't avoid that. However, they make it quite annoying, because as you can hear, they really beep at you. So that's the speed limit warning. We're on a 40 mph limit. I hit 41 there, it started to beep at me. Oh, there's another one. It's telling me I've changed now to a 50 limit. Why does it need to do all of that? I can read a sign. I don't understand. The other problem as well is, as I was saying to you earlier with this screen, you can turn all these safety systems off. So you can go in there and turn it all off, but it's about 3 or 4 stages through this touchscreen to turn them off. And as soon as you do that, you then get another one, which is this driver monitor sensor, telling you they've taken your eyes off the road. Well, of course I have, because I'm trying to turn stuff off, because you've buried it in a screen. So why do that? Why bury it in a screen and then chastise me for using the screen? I just don't understand that, you know. Now, as I say, Kia's not alone with this. It has to meet these regulations that are now coming out. But even so, it's just so bloody annoying, you know. And as I say, everything defaults back on. As soon as you start up again, it defaults back on. That's annoying. So that's something that does annoy me. But as I say, I'm not going to really lay the blame of that at Kia's door. You know, it's half of their fault for burying them so deeply in that screen. The one thing that I think that is Kia's fault, however, and I would say is probably the biggest flaw with the car here, is it doesn't have air suspension. Well, it does. It has air suspension at the back, but for self-leveling purposes. In other words, if you're loaded up with 7 people or a pile of luggage, or you're towing, it'll keep the rear, it'll pump the rear up so it self-levels. But it doesn't have it all round, nor does it have adaptive dampers. So the ride quality isn't quite what I expected it to be. Now, it could be down to the 21-inch alloys, because irrespective where I am, whether I'm pootling around town, whether I'm on the motorway like I was on yesterday in a big drive, or whether I'm round about these little A roads here and B roads, it's hard. It's not harsh, but you can feel all the surface imperfections. There's a ridge there. I felt that. I go over a cat's eye, you feel it. You know, there's a change in road surface. I went up the M1 yesterday, the M25 and then the M1, and then there was a change where it went from tarmac to concrete, and you felt the change through the car. Now, as I say, I've got to stress, it is not uncomfortable. It is not like, you know, a Tesla Model Y. It's not like being strapped into a wooden chair and being thrown down a flight of stairs. Sorry, if you wonder what the rattle is, by the way, it's my water bottle. It's not like being thrown down a flight of stairs, being strapped to a wooden chair. But as I say, you are aware of what surface is underneath you. And I just expected it to be not floaty, but I expected it to be a little bit more isolated in here from the road surface. Now, as I say, it could be down to the big wheels. The problem there is, if you go for the 19-inch wheels, which you get on the Air model, they look overwhelmed by the bulk of the car. It is one car where big wheels actually do make a difference, certainly to the style of the car. So, you know, but just be aware of, the trade is the ride quality that's not quite as good as some of the rivals that this is competing with in terms of the price point. But I have to say, that's it. The rest of the car drives beautifully. It's exactly what I expected it to be, other than that ride quality. It's big, the visibility is superb. The car is so kind of squared off and chiselled that there isn't a single part of the car that I can't see in terms of placing it, whether it's on the road, whether it's parking, whether it's manoeuvring it around town. Irrespective of what I'm doing, you can see there's great visibility from the car. You've also got Kia's brilliant blind spot monitoring system. As soon as you put the indicator on, you get the little blind spot camera that shows you down the side of the car, you know, which again, as I say, is absolutely fantastic. So in terms of the way the car actually drives, you know, it's exactly as you sort of expect to find it. As I say, there are elements of it that is not going to be a sports car. If you want a sporty drive, then you have to drive something else. You know, as I say, drive an EV6 or drive a you know, a Mustang Mach-E or whatever. This isn't the car for that. Just let that lady through now. It's also quite manoeuvrable for such a big car. You know, it's got quite a good steering lock on it, I have to say. And of course that comes with all sort of like everything being kept really, really low down in that eGMP platform. There's a good amount of manoeuvrability for a car of this size and this length. So I have to commend them for that as well. The seats are comfortable. As I say, the driving position is excellent. The only thing I can fault on the driving position, as I say, is the way the steering wheel cuts out that centre screen. But in fairness, the times you need to use it aren't that often, because you've got the physical controls here anyway for the heating and ventilation. So yeah, what else can you say? It is an exceptionally good car. It is the type of car, as I say, that you would happily load a pile of stuff in and your family and head off, yeah, say down to the West Country or into the Alps on a skiing holiday, or down to the south of France or the west coast of France like I do every year. It just feels sure-footed on the road. It feels its bulk in a good way when you're on that type of drive, so you can actually fit, it feels solid on the road. But as I say, as soon as the road gets a bit twisty, obviously, as I say, it can't disguise its bulk. But as I say, it's not meant to do that. I haven't designed it to do that. If the ride quality was just that little bit better, just that little bit more, you were isolated a little bit more from the road surface, it would be very hard to fault, because I say, because the bits that annoy me other than that are bits that aren't really Kia's issue. They are legislation that's annoying. Yes, okay, they make it, sort of like noisy and beepy and whatever, but the fact of the matter is, the flaws, the nitpicking that I can have with this car is so small and so inconsequential to the rest of the car and the way it's designed and what it's designed to do. I can't help but say it's brilliant. I absolutely love it. Kia have done it again. They've knocked it out of the park with this one. Now, at the start of the video I kept talking about £70,000, but in fairness to Kia, the EV9 range starts at under that. If you go for the Air model, it's nice and simple range in fairness. There's only basically 3 trim levels. They start with the Air, which is the only one that you can get with 2-wheel drive, and that kicks the range off at £65,000. If you move up to a GT line car, that's an all-wheel drive, a dual motor car, and that comes in at £74,000. This GT line S is £76,000, and if you want, because this is a 7-seat car, if you want a 6-seater car, believe it or not, you pay more for that, and that's £77,000. And on top of that, the only options that you really have on the cars is the paint finish that comes with them. So in fairness, it's pretty good value for money. There's no sort of like option packs or different trims that you can add on to there and then. That's it, 3 trim levels, 2-wheel drive in the base model, 4-wheel drive in the upper 2, and as I say, nice and simple options in terms of that. It's just paint, and then obviously dealer accessories as you see going forward then. The other benefit, of course, you're getting with the Kia is its legendary 7-year warranty as well, which way outperforms things like Mercedes-Benz, BMW and Audi at just 3 years. Now, I've spoken a lot about the competition coming from people like BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Audi, and of course that's where I see it mostly because of the price point of the car. You're looking at BMW iX in the xDrive 40 Sport, which kicks off around about just in sort of mid-70s. Audi Q8 e-tron, very, very similar price in that, but of course the downside with those cars is none of them offer the 7-seat or 6-seat option to have. Mercedes-Benz, you've got sort of like the EQC, which is sort of a size below this, in fairness, which comes in at sort of like under the £70,000. But if you want to go to the EQE SUV, which is the similar size to this, then that's a car I tested a few weeks back, and you'll remember that started at over £90,000, and the car that I had on test was £112,000, and it was the same sort of level of equipment as this car. So, in terms of value, I think Mercedes are well out of the bracket. But you might be looking at one of their other, if it's the space you need in terms of 7 seats, do bear in mind that Mercedes do offer another 2 cars which you can get 7 seats with that are all electric. Of course, you've got your EQV 300, the people carrier, and the smaller EQB SUV. That's got a 7-seat option on it as well. So in fairness to Mercedes, if it's 7 seats you need, you've got those options from Mercedes-Benz. You might also look at the Tesla with the Model X. Now again, like we've always seen with the Tesla, the Model S and the Model X, it is left-hand drive only when it comes to the UK market, but obviously if you're from Europe or the US, you're one of our viewers from over there, then obviously that could be a consideration as well. Okay, the starting price for the Tesla is a little bit higher, but we know the advantages that come with Tesla in terms of, like Kia and Hyundai, their efficiency and of course the access to the charging network. There's going to be more competition that Kia is going to face from this, and actually it's going to pretty much come from within, because also their sister brand Hyundai is going to launch the Ioniq 7, which is going to be a similar style of car to this, a large SUV with 7 seats, all electric. And again, they sort of pretty much on a par with each other, so that's coming online as well. But as I say, there might be other cars that you possibly look at that aren't all electric because you need the 7 seats, and that might be plug-in hybrids such as you get from Volvo with the XC90, which is still going to remain on sale when the EX90 comes out, which is their large all-electric 7-seater, but that's going to be 100 grand, that car. So you might look at an XC90 plug-in hybrid, and of course you've got competition from Audi with their Q7, which is a 7-seater which you can have as a plug-in hybrid as well, and of course BMW with their X5, and of course Land Rover with the Defender and Discovery models that also come with plug-in hybrids. So if you're not ready for full electric yet, those might be on your radar as well. So here's what we like and what we don't like about the new Kia EV9. Well, we like the way it looks. It's well equipped as standard. The space and versatility that it offers. The sustainability message and the use of recycled materials. It's nice to drive. And of course, you get Kia's legendary warranty. We don't like, well, the ride's not as compliant as some of its rivals. There's no doubting that it can't disguise its size and weight. And the 6-seat option, if that is the one that appeals to you, it's only available in the top of the range, most expensive GT Line S model. I think by now you've probably got the gist of this road test review that Kia have got an absolute winner on their hands with this car. Now, I said at the beginning, I appreciate that I was maybe being a little bit dramatic with my sort of like opening gambit, with sort of like saying, you know, would you spend £70,000 on a Kia? We've seen them push slowly up market with the models that they've been bringing out, and every model they've brought out has been a real standout car in that class as far as we're concerned. The e-Niro, when it was the original e-Niro, was probably one of the best cars you could buy under £40,000. The new one is even better. The EV6 is still our favourite sort of like mid-size, sort of like, you know, sort of like compact crossover / SUV at around about that £50,000 bracket. And now there's this. But we are playing to a slightly different market now. As I say, we are competing with, you know, the prestige brands of Audi, BMW, Mercedes-Benz. And there's no doubt about it that, you know, it does have a slightly tougher job on its hands at that level, convincing people that it is worthy enough to spend this level of money on it. It's not without its flaws, this car. It does have a couple of, you know, not saying serious flaws, but noticeable ones that might put some people off. But if you have over sort of like round about £70,000 to spend, and you want a large, practical family SUV, and you want to go all electric, as far as I'm concerned, if you don't buy this car, then there's something very, very wrong indeed, because this is an absolute winner in my books. Thank you for watching yet another episode of AutoEV. As always, please make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. And once you've done that, please press the little bell button down below, because then that way you'll receive a notification of when our next video is uploaded and it's gone live. Once you've watched it, as I say, if you have enjoyed it, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and don't forget, leave us your comments down below. Let me know what your thoughts are on cars such as the Kia EV9. Would you buy this over a BMW iX? Would you want to save over £30,000 over a Mercedes-Benz EQE SUV and get one of these instead? Tempting offer, isn't it? Or would the Kia badge put you off? As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Now remember, we're across all social media as well, so Facebook, X, LinkedIn, Instagram, even TikTok, so please give us a follow there as well, because every little bit does help the channel. And maybe this is your first time you've joined us on AutoEV, or maybe you're a seasoned viewer and you want to know even more, but you've only watched a couple of videos. Stick on the YouTube channel, because there's plenty of videos out there, not just road test reviews, twin tests, used car buying advice, van reviews, motorbike reviews, and an electric icon series. All that remains for me to say is thank you once again for watching. Thank you for continuing to support the channel. And on behalf of Finlay and myself, we'll see you again soon. Should we go for a walk, Finn? Let's go. See you soon. Come on, pup.